Hello, what's up, my bear fans? It's me, Flakey Winter, and I gotta do this, man, because oh my goodness, I'm not ready. I'm not flipping ready for Halloween Revelations. Like, how could they fluff it up? Like, you had 8 movies that were so good. Some like better. I wasn't feeling it with that ending, but Hellseeker, Inferno, Bloodline, Hell World, Hell on Earth, Hellbound, and the first Hellraiser movie I really like. But this is low standards. I can't believe they would do something like this. So anyway, I'm just gonna, you know, get straight into two more Salt Cookhouse. Don't play yet, BSK2. What are you doing? Anyway, let's get straight into this, my bear fans. So please, there we go. Here we go.
Is used in the
Oh
case
yeah, by
is
the
owned
way,
entirely by the company.
I will definitely link the original videos down below in the description. So yeah, let's just get straight into this because I don't want to do it. I don't want to watch Hellraiser Revelations. Please, please, any of you BSK2 fans, help me, please. I don't want to watch Hellraiser Revelations. It's bad. It's so bad. Okay.
Right holders.
Okay,
And makes
I'm
no
good.
claim to
I'm good.
ownership and simply uses the footage for purposes of
Yes.
education, commentary, and criticism under fair use. Please support filmmakers and the art of filmmaking by watching Jigsaw in its entirety on home media or streaming services where available.
Okay. Here we go.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm
Yep.
James Janice, and today we're looking at Jigsaw, currently the latest film in the Saw franchise, having come out just last year in 2017. Jigsaw comes after a 7-year gap in the franchise and was written by newcomers Josh Stolberg and Peter Goldfinger. Directed by the Spirit Brothers, it has a decidedly updated look to it. Instead of feeling trapped in the mid-2000s like the original Saw films, it's much more polished in terms of cinematography and lighting. Unfortunately, for those of us who relished in the soap opera storytelling of Saws 1 through 3D, Jigsaw doesn't pick up that torch to carry. It's sort of a soft reboot of the series, with the only returning character, besides Billy the Puppet, being John Kramer himself, played by Tobin Bell, who is once again the best part of the movie. But it's not a hard reboot because everything we saw still took place. It's a little confusing, and the movie gets ambitious with how much it tries to do, but unfortunately, its big twist is weighed down by bigger plot holes and a major retcon that doesn't jive with what we know from the first 7 Saws. So with all that being said, how does Jigsaw stack up in terms of kills? Let's find out and get to them. The movie begins with some cops laying out a spike mat that makes the star have a real theme park stunt show style crash. The driver, Dirty Edgar here, takes off on foot and winds up on that roof from the room, maybe to sell Denny some drugs. This dude, Detective Halloran, shows up and regards Edgar like an old friend. Edgar, what the fuck are you doing? But Edgar just tells Halloran and this other detective, Keith Hunt, that a game has begun. He says he has to pull the trigger on this device to save his own life, so he does and gets his hand shot off by the police. Elsewhere, we see a digital timer start in a room with 5 chains leading out of a wall. Although Halloran told his men to aim for the trigger, it looks like one of them shot Edgar in the chest. Luckily, Edgar still has enough breath to say, "It's started," and lead us into a title. High tech, baby. Ready Player Jigsaw. That timer we saw is waking up a bunch of bucket hats. Well, all but the bucket head on the end. He's more like a bucket hat. Their wake-up routines are interrupted by the voice of John Kramer over a speaker.
I want to play a game.
He says these people haven't accepted responsibility for the things they've done in life, but if they can come clean about the lies they've told, they can win salvation.
Confess. The truth will set you free.
Blessed be Father Jigsaw. The first task he gives them is simple enough. One sacrifice of any amount will get these bucket heads and let them go further in the Saw 5 style group track. The chains begin pulling them into the buzzsaws on the wall, even Sleepy over there, and although they resist at first, one of them decides to take Jigsaw at his word and offer up a small blood sacrifice. It works, and she's debucketed, so she spreads the good word to the others. They all follow suit, offering various amounts of blood, either purposefully or accidentally, and their doors open up to pull them further along. Except for Sleepy, who's just now realizing how many times he hit the snooze button, and despite some words of help, doesn't react in time to the blades before the others are all pulled into the next room. Later, a bunch of people in the park find a body hanging on display, and when the bucket top is removed by the police pathologist, we see that the head has been partially decapitated. They also learn a little later that this dude's name was Malcolm, so so that's why it's on the list. The pathologists are Elle, short for Eleanor, a hip chick who likes to make puns,
Looks a little pale.
and Logan Nelson, who knows Detective Hunt from the time they spent together serving in Fallujah. When Hunt sees Logan, he says he's sorry to hear about his wife Christine, who was killed 2 years prior. Rough time to bring that up, since right now they're dealing with a missing puzzle piece from Malcolm's neck.
Someone's been studying up on John Kramer. Copycat?
Hope not. Kramer's been dead for 10 years.
Confusing, yeah, so maybe they can find more info on this USB drive they extract from the wound. The drive has a physical message etched into it saying, and then there were four, as well as an audio file on it that features John Kramer's voice.
The games have begun again.
After they identify the victim as Malcolm, Logan remembers his name as someone involved in a crime that Halloran failed to get any convictions for. That's not good police right there. They run a voice analysis that confirms the voice on the audio file is in fact John Kramer's.
What? He came back from the dead? Wouldn't be his first time.
What? Yeah, it would be. He's never been a zombie. The Trap Clock Squad finds themselves in a hoedown themed room and make introductions to each other. There's Mitch, who likes to kick things. Carly,
Yeah, imagine
who's
that.
kidnapped while cosplaying Tiffany Valentine. Anna, who's the only one piecing together that they must all be there for a reason. And Ryan, who says there's nothing in his life he should feel guilty about. Oh, and there's also Billy. He's just a simple puppet who wants to ride his tricycle. He wants to ride his trike. And his
Oh
eyes
my
are
god,
all yellow,
Skylar
like
Grey.
a
I
paper
got
check.
that one.
No, it's not creepy at all.
Billy gives them his old puppet laugh, and their chains once again start retracting. Mitch tries to stop it by confessing about a time he sold a kid a motorcycle, and the kid died in a crash 10 minutes later. But he denies any responsibility for it. Anna says she lost her baby when her husband mistakenly rolled over onto it during a nap, suffocating it. So she's got no mea culpas to give either. Mitch is able to grab a tape player from Billy, and it makes the chain stop retracting. On the tape, Jigsaw says that one of them is a thief who allowed a woman to die while they were snatching that purse. I'll go ahead and include that woman on the count, since, she did. And she died because purse snatcher Carly didn't help her during an asthma attack. Now it turns out Carly's been injected with a poison.
just like
Tape
how,
tells her
It is you who
I
could
can't
die
remember
without the
the
right
character in
medication.
of the
Harvard
three needles in
He
front
had
of them,
asthma.
one has the antidote, another a saline solution, and then the third frickin' acid. And not the Ken Kesey kind. Their chains will be released if they inject the right one, but they all might die if they don't. That's because the chains start up again, going into the ceiling this time, and all four of them start to hang. Carly is too scared to pick one of the needles for herself, so Ryan swings over and injects her with all three, freeing everyone from their neck shackles. That's great news for all of them, except Carly, who's got a trio of needles in her neck. Her skin starts bubbling and then just kind of falls apart completely, and Carly falls to the barn floor dead from a ton of blood coming out her neck. There's a short argument about whether Mitch saved their lives or took Carly. And almost off before Mitch finds a combination number inside one of the syringes that opens the next door in their path. In the new room, despite a warning not to, Ryan tries to break down an exit only to fall through the floorboards into a trap that wraps metal wires around his legs. Oh, that's gotta hurt. There's a tape under the floorboards too, and although it proves very risky to retrieve, Mitch manages to pull through and get it out. On the tape, John Kramer chastises Ryan for trying to take a shortcut and says the only way to be set free is to pull this lever. But Ryan surmises that be set free means be free of half a limb, so he doesn't want to pull it and lose his leg. The barn goes dark, and Mitch and Anna are led into a grain silo by a light. The door closes on them, and a flat screen TV comes on, with another monitor turning on near Ryan beneath the floorboards. Simulcast across both of them is Farmer Billy again. And may I just say, Billy, you're looking real good in this movie. Talk about a glow up. Billy says
I
that
mean, I
now
really
the
did
lever
like
is also
his
the only
eye
way to save
color,
Mitch and
like
Anna.
the way they
What's
did the
motherfucking
glowing
grain
red eyes for
involvement? A
Jigsaw,
terrifying way to
like
die
blood
that
on this
actually
one.
kills a handful
That
of farmers
actually
every
makes
year.
sense
It
because
really
you can
sucks, dude. But Ryan is still
the
too
red
afraid
eyes
to pulverize
fall
his own
through the
legs, so
saw
Anna and Mitch are buried up to their
one through
necks,
seven.
which Ryan sees on his subterranean monitor. Various sharp tools start raining down upon the pair of them, but thankfully they're being dropped by some stormtroopers, so pretty much all of them miss. Ryan finally builds up the courage to pull the lever, and just as expected, the wires tighten around his leg and straight up bifurcated. Looks like a little leg sushi roll there. Sucks for him, but there is some good news. Their next door opens, and Mitch and Anna are free, even though she nearly gets pitchforked in the face. Let's catch up with a bunch of cop plot stuff. Blood under the fingernails of that buckethead body Malcolm are revealed to match the blood of a perp taken a decade ago. Who could that be? Hopefully the movie will spell it out for me.
The blood under the fingernails of our first victim. It's John Kramer's blood.
Wow, never would have
The
guessed.
jigsaw killer.
Yeah, we know. We know. Then a blonde, acided body is thrown from the roof of the hospital with a note saying, and then there were three. Logan shows Halloran and Hunt how the Vic was killed by hydrofluoric acid injected into her neck, and they also find a puzzle piece carved out of her tongue. Ah, shit, you know what? I forgot. What movie am I watching again?
Jig fucking saw.
That's right, Jigsaw. Just keep on telling me, movie. I'm sure it'll stick eventually. Halloran starts growing suspicious of Eleanor because apparently she's been visiting a website called Jigsaw Rules, which they disclose when they question Logan about her.
Logan, you ever heard about a website called Jigsaw Rules?
Jigsaw Rules! Logan tracks Eleanor down at a bar to tell her that the
Jason
cops are
funny
sniffing
guy.
up her alley. He also mentions that that he fucking hates Halloran because he's bad police, and some suspects that he let go later wound up killing innocent people, including, in one occasion, a little girl who wound up on Logan's autopsy table. Ellen takes Logan to her quote-unquote studio, which is more of a Saw Trap museum, featuring recreations of favorites such as the Carry Cracker, the Stromsa Merger, and the I Be Gone gun thing. Oh, and of course, the OG RBT itself. Her most prized part of the collection, though, is this red spiral of death.
Supposedly, John Kramer designed this trap for a game that took place before all the others.
She bought the plans off the internet and recreated it, although Logan says she may have been duped since no jigsaw victims on record ever died from anything like this. Maybe they should fact check that with Detective Hunt, who's spying on them from outside with a camera. Anna wraps Ryan's leg and tries to cut off the blood flow with a belt, while Mitch checks under the hood of a tractor to find a tape player with his name on it. When he hits play, he's ensnared in a rope that holds him upside down, while John Kramer's voice tells him that, hey, you know that kid who died in a crash on the bike you sold him?
He was my nephew.
Yep, and Mitch had sold the bike as being in perfect
I
condition,
really
even
liked
though he
how
knew the
that
brakes
part,
didn't
though,
work. That's why Jigsaw's nephew
I
was
was
killed in a nasty
surprised.
crash with a garbage
Jigsaw's
truck. If
nephew.
only it hadn't been garbage day. Now the engine of that faulty bike is being used to power Jigsaw's death spiral trap. Same design as the one in L's studio. Mitch will have to skillfully navigate between the whirring blades to reach the brake lever on the ground. As he's lowered down deeper and deeper into the spiral, Anna tries to bypass the test by stopping the bike itself, and she's able to temporarily succeed with a metal rod through the tire. But Mitch probably should have taken that opportunity to pull the brake lever, because when the rod snaps, the spiral starts back up and tears him to pieces in a CGI twister of blood. It spits his mangled body out on the floor, leaving only two trap plot folk alive, and one of them is feeling as bad as Mitch looks. Okay, well, maybe not that bad. Edgar Munson, the dude shot on that rooftop in the beginning of the movie, has been in a coma in the hospital, but gets woken up with a substance injected into his IV and abducted by the unseen perpetrator. When the cops go to dig up John Kramer's body to make sure they're not dealing with a Night of the Living Jigsaw situation, they find Edgar's body instead, with his throat good and slit. And, of course, a jigsaw piece carved out of his cheek. Do we have a zombie John Kramer on our hands for real, though? With the pictures that Hunt took of Eleanor's studio, the cops have probable cause to bust into the place and see what they can find, other than a bunch of kill count background drops. Maybe she's just filming a YouTube video, y'all. Except they do find a mangled body, like a Murphy bed, with a note saying that there are only two trap pot players left on the stage. Hunt picks up Logan and gives him a nice pair of bracelets to wear, but Logan insists that he and Eleanor are being set up and points the finger at Halloran, suspecting that he's also the one who shot Edgar in the chest while everyone else was aiming at his hand. It's revealed that Hunt is with Internal Affairs and that IA has indeed connected Halloran to multiple homicides over the years. Logan offers to help Hunt make a slam dunk case against Halloran by matching the bullet in Edgar Munson's chest to Halloran's gun, so they extract the slug, and it does in fact match Halloran's Glock. Yes, Glock. They say Glock. Their words, not mine.
That's a Glock 17.
See, Logan goes back home where Eleanor shows up to tell him that she's learned the location of the farm where the current game is taking place. She wants to head there with no cops so they can be the heroes of the day. Yeah, I'm sure that'll go well. They head off not knowing that Halloran is following them. Back in the trap plot, Anna manages to break her way through a door to the outside, but right as she's wriggling out, she gets pig. She wakes up with a shackle around one of her ankles. Across from her is Ryan, another shackle around, his remaining ankle. In between that is a hooded figure who's revealed to be... Wait, my God, that's John Kramer's music! What the fuck? What's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah, that's what I said, dude.
You're about to play a game.
Oh, so same old, same old. John tells Ryan that he needs to fess up for the three deaths he's responsible for, apparently alluding to a time when Ryan was a fuckboy high schooler whose high-speed drunk antics launched him from a moving vehicle. That moving vehicle ran straight into another moving vehicle, resulting in a huge double explosion that killed Ryan's two friends and the driver they collided with. When Ryan finally confesses, but says he wants to live, Jigsaw says so does he. But since some careless resident at his hospital mixed up his name with another person's on their x-rays, his cancer wasn't noticed early enough to be treated. As for Anna, turns out she was John's neighbor, and in between making sketches of puppet tricycles and watching her domestic life dissolve, he was somehow able to just overhear the truth of what happened to their baby. Turns out Anna's husband Matthew didn't smother the baby accidentally. Instead, after the baby wouldn't stop crying, Anna smothered the baby intentionally with a pillow and planted the body next to her sleeping husband to frame it. Holy fucking shit, that is a dark turn, Jigsaw. I've been rooting for this chick the whole movie. Why you gotta make me feel dirty like that? In another dark turn, after her husband was blamed and taken away by authorities, he wound up hanging himself out of guilt. Good lord, can we go back to neo-Nazis getting run over by cars instead of this heavy shit? John wants them to assume responsibility for their actions. He says they've been doing everything backwards and need to turn it all around. He'll give them the chance to do so with one final test.
Use your key to freedom.
There's one shell and there's one shotgun. The rest is up to them. Man, I hate open-ended exams like this. Anna and Ryan aren't good at them either, as they just assume that John wants them to kill each other. Anna grabs grabs the gun first and aims it at Ryan, preparing to earn her freedom. And
Obviously, you're
Ryan doesn't
supposed
realize
to like
until too late that Jigsaw
open
says he
that
had got it
shotgun up,
backwards. As Anna
get the
pulls the
keys,
trigger, the
and
shotgun
boom, you're
backfires into
free.
her face,
But
killing her
no.
with an accidentally self-inflicted gun wound. Who would have thought that Ryan would be the last man standing in this trap? Well, I guess standing is pretty generous, as he's only able to crawl over to the spent shotgun shell and discover that the keys to their ankle padlocks were inside of it. John had put them there and been very literal with his words.
Here's your key to freedom.
But now the keys are totally bugged, and Ryan has no other option than to roll onto his back and say he's sorry. Eleanor and Logan get to a farm that she says belonged to Jill Tut's family, so this must be the place. Halloran follows them there and ignores a call from Hunt, who's calling him from Halloran's apartment. Should have answered that phone, Hallie, my man. Maybe you could have explained the frozen skin jigsaw pieces Hunt just found in your freezer. Eleanor and Logan head inside and find all the used up game pieces of the traps we've watched play out during this movie.
It's Jigsaw.
Jigsaw's dead.
Is he?
Yeah, dude, he has to be. Have you seen the beginning of Saw 4? But Eleanor claims that Jigsaw lives forever through the work of his followers, and that's when they stumble upon the cone of death that shredded Mitch to a husk. Logan turns on Ellie and suspects her of being behind everything, but as she proclaims her innocence, Halloran pops out and puts a gun to Logan's head. Logan puts his marine combat skills to good use and fights back as Eleanor runs away. Halloran manages to knock Logan out and runs off to chase Eleanor, but he loses her and winds up getting a needle in the back that knocks him out. Next thing you know, both Logan and Halloran are waking up with some fancy metal bibs around their necks, and Logan immediately identifies as being freaking laser beams. John Kramer's voice comes over a speaker to tell them that they are the final two players of the game, and that the only way they'll get out of these laser collars is if they confess to the crimes that put them there. In response, Halloran asks what we're all dying to know. How are you alive? How are you still alive? Jigsaw says they have a choice over who goes first, and Halloran offers to do so, but instead he hits the button in front of Logan, which sends him back against the wall. With the laser show on full force, Logan confesses that he was the hospital resident who mixed up John Kramer's x-rays and caused his cancer to be missed until it was too late. But apparently that confession's not enough, and the lasers close in on Logan's head, causing blood to go everywhere and for him to collapse to the ground. Then it's Halloran's turn to be up against the wall, with the lasers shooting out of his collar into the ceiling above. He starts admitting various corrupt cop shit that he's done, and after confessing that innocent people died because of him, the lasers turn off. That's when he notices something fishy. While his ceiling is all charred and lasered, the one above Logan's spot is not. Logan gets up from the ground in a very Saw 1 John Kramer type way and shows that his lasers were as harmless as a house cat plaything, and that the blood we just saw came from a bunch of capsules lining the inside of his collar. He reveals that he's been the new Jigsaw this whole time, but that he's gonna frame Halloran with the audio recording he just took of his confession. People died because of me! Innocent people died because of me! I did it! Confused?
I understand.
Yeah, that's okay. This movie's twist is pretty damn extra. Logan explains that 10 years ago, in this very barn, a game was played. He illustrates this point by unveiling a couple of decade-old bodies, those of Anna and Ryan, so now we can add Ryan to the count. Turns out he was left in the barn to bleed to death after Anna messed up their keys by firing that shotgun. Bummer. And yes, just to be clear, the main trap plot of this movie took place 10 years ago and was set up by John Kramer back then, when he was still alive. Just ignore the flat screen TVs and the high-tech Billy glow-up eyes during those scenes. Or, don't. Call that shit out. It's a major plot hole. Logan had actually been part of that game, put there because of the fatal x-ray mix-up that messed up John's chances at life. He was the sleepy buckethead that we saw get left behind in the first room as the other trap plot participants moved on to hang out at the hoedown. I guess right after that happened, John Kramer emerged from a wall panel to save Logan and free him from the trap? What?
John decided I shouldn't have to die over an honest mistake.
Yeah, okay. Are we talking about the same John Kramer? Because in the same movie, he condemns Ryan to death for what was also a mistake. But okay, now, 10 years later, Logan has recreated that same jigsaw game with criminals that were set free by Halloran. He made it identical, except that he only had 3 participants, with himself and Halloran filling in for the final 2. And since we're being shown this revelation, I can finally square up the kill count. That Malcolm dude they found still counts, since he was the replacement for Logan in this recreation. But the acidified blonde corpse thrown from the roof wasn't actually Carly. It was this chick who just kind of looked like her and was given the same choice, apparently. So she died in the same manner. Add her to the list. And the mangled corpse they found in L's studio wasn't actually Mitch. It was this other guy who apparently was put in the same exact situation as Mitch and died in the same exact way. Throw him up there as well. Logan is ultimately targeting Halloran because he had protected Edgar Munson from jail time, since Edgar was his informant. Why is that such a big deal for Logan? Oh, only because Edgar is the one who killed Logan's wife a couple years prior. So Logan probably enjoyed it when he stood on a rooftop in that opening scene and sniped Edgar in the chest. During the autopsy scene with Hunt, we see that Logan just pulled the old Reddit switcheroo to swap in Halloran's bullet. Sneaky bastard. bastard, he also grabbed John Kramer's blood from the evidence locker to put under Malcolm's fingernails, used old audio files of John Kramer's tapes to reconstruct his own jigsaw messages, and planted those fleshy jigsaw pieces in Halloran's freezer to frame him. Best of all, he's got a solid alibi in the form of Eleanor, who got away to tell the tale. Honestly, for me, it seems like an over-the-top twist, especially when it's revealed that Logan has been a jigsaw accomplice this entire time. Before Gordon, before Amanda, before Hoffman, all the way back to when he was building that first reverse bear trap. I don't know, it just seems unlikely to me. After Logan reveals all this to Halloran, he activates the laser collar and he closes in on Halloran's head, killing him by splitting his head into 8 pieces, so when he falls to the ground on his knees, it straight up blossoms into a Demogorgon. As his corpse falls to the floor, Logan closes the door with the infamous jigsaw catchphrase.
I speak for the dead.
Oh, no, actually, dude, the line is game over. You want to take it again? No? That was it? That was the movie? Okay, let's just get to the numbers. Oh, fuck. Whatever. 16 people died in Jigsaw, a respectable second place in the series, especially without a Hoffmanator. The victims included 10 males, 4 females, and 2 victims of indeterminate genders. That's the car driver in the crash and his baby, which, by the way, sucks to have a baby on one of these things. That comes out to this pie chart of genders, and with a runtime of 92 minutes, we had a kill on average of like 5.75 minutes. I'll give the golden chainsaw for coolest kill to Halloran, I guess. The effects aren't great, but I just can't figure out who else I would give it to. And besides, how often do you have frickin' laser beams slicing a head like a pizza pie? Dol Machete Galena's kill will go to Asthma Lady. Lots of contenders for this one, but nothing's worse than dying in the street like that, mere feet away from an inhaler. Platinum Punji Sticks for coolest trap will go to the Buckethead trap. Yeah, it's a super simple one, and yes, this movie has a bunch of cool traps, but this one became instantly iconic because of its simplicity, with 5 faceless humans being drawn towards a wall of spinning saws. Rusty Mousetrap's Elena's trap will go to the chain hanger strap just because of that massive loophole where anyone could inject all 3 syringes into someone else to pass it. And since Jigsaw is a new name for one of these movies, it doesn't need a personalized subtitle. And besides, I'm never going to top that last one. So that's it. Jigsaw was released in 2017, and another Saw sequel is already being planned. But until that comes out, I'm James H. Anise. This has been the Kill Count. Thanks a lot for watching
Damn,
today's
man,
Kill.
I really love what Dead Meat does in these videos. Hold on, let me see if I can. You good there, Beast King? Anyway, I'm going to give this video a like because Dead Meat is one of the best YouTubers out there. Okay, so now let's get straight into the last one, my bear fans. Spiral, the Book of Saul.
$3 picture night.
Beast King, so just said Spiral. I was gonna say it first, but he didn't let me. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James H. Anise, and today we're looking at Spiral from the Book of Saw, released in 2021 after a year-long delay due to COVID. Spiral is the 9th film in the Saw franchise, but according to the filmmakers, it's not a Saw movie. It's not a strict reboot either. Everything that happened before still happened, but it's a sort of standalone film, a new chapter from the Book of Saw. Those familiar with Saw know that the first 7 films were one unbroken Byzantine story, and I loved it. The 8th film, Jigsaw, was a bit of a soft reboot, ignoring most of the convoluted lore, but still focusing on John Kramer, the Jigsaw killer. Although Spiral acknowledges Kramer's existence, it has an independent storyline friendly to new viewers. You don't need to see the first 8 films to enjoy it. In fact, I'd say Spiral buries John Kramer 5 films after we saw him die. Rest in peace, you sanctimonious bastard. Though its story is disconnected, Spiral was made by Saw veterans, including several producers who have worked on every single film. Darren Lynn Bousman was hired to direct, returning to the franchise after a 4-film absence. While James Wan directed the original Saw, Bousman took over to do Saws 2, 3, and 4, meaning he solidified the Saw look and style, which he brings to Spiral with some alterations that make it feel more modern, like having songs on the soundtrack by 21 Savage. Bousman clearly loves the series, and it's to Spiral's benefit that he returned and made it look congruent with the other films. Also returning to the franchise are screenwriters Josh Stolberg and Peter Goldfinger, who wrote Jigsaw. They've been writing Jigsaw 2, which would have delved into more John Kramer backstory, when Saw producers Mark Berg and Oren Poles told them to drop everything they were doing. Chris Rock had mentioned that he'd love to do a Saw film, and Lionsgate Vice Chairman Michael Burns said, "Let it be so." Only 6 months after Rock pitched the idea at a birthday party in Brazil. A script was written. Rock, who was also an executive producer, wanted a Saw movie that combined police procedurals with bits of humor sprinkled in, something like a cross between 7 and 48 Hours. He told the writers to write a straightforward Saw movie and that he would provide all the comedy.
Don't give me a draft where you're writing me a line that you think is funny. I'll take care of that part.
Though there are plenty of funny moments, and the comedy isn't overdone, a lot of Rock's humor falls flat for me. The rest of the screenplay is even worse. While cop plots have always been a part of the franchise, they usually only take up half the film, with the other half devoted to sick and twisted trap plots. In Spiral, the cop plot is the whole kit and caboodle. I like that it deals with police corruption, especially since it was made before the summer of 2020. Because of that, it doesn't feel like it's trying to exploit a hot topic. Still, it doesn't engage with that theme in any meaningful way, and the characters and story beats are cliche and uninteresting. In fact, as it goes on, Spiral becomes the unthinkable, a boring Saw movie. Full disclosure, Chelsea and I promoted Spiral when it first came out, with a video highlighting 5 things we loved about the movie. I stand by those 5 things and everything I said in that video. We wouldn't lie to you. But I'll admit, I'd have had a hard time coming up with a 6th item, because outside of the strengths we talked about there, I wasn't a fan of this movie. Maybe I'm just too attached to the first 6 films and the soap opera they spawned, but Spiral ultimately left me disappointed and wanting more from my beloved Saw. No matter how connected it is to the rest of the series, a Saw movie's gonna have tons of gore. That's why today's episode is sponsored by Bright Sellers. We're halfway through spooky season, but other holidays are right around the corner. As good a reason as any to stock up on wine, especially when you can count on the wine being tailored to
I'm gonna skip this. Skip.
the Necronomicon. The Book of Saw is probably written in blood. Let's see what our ink supplies look like and get to the kills.
Okie dokie.
The movie begins with fireworks. Hide your dogs in trouble, y'all. Some straw-hatted mofo is walking around a carnival when he sees a guy in an Uncle Sam get-up steal a woman's purse. You never trust those Uncle Sams, always trying to steal and or murder. The man who looks like he's vacationing in Cuba reveals himself as police, Detective Boswick. He chases the thief through the crowd in a scene they had to shoot guerrilla style, since they never got a permit to film at this actual carnival. Boswick winds up in a tunnel underground where the star-spangled suspect transforms into a hunky hunk of plastic. Boswick gets bagged and wakes up with his hands bound. Oh, and also, his tongue's in a vice. And he's in a subway tunnel. Not a great stitch, but there is a TV. Maybe it's got Netflix, dude.
Hello, Detective Boswick. I want to play a game.
This seems more like a Hulu show. It's a pig in a rope with a jigsaw-like tape, but with a noticeably new voice.
It is up to you to decide if this will be your final stop.
The filmmakers considered using Jigsaw's voice, but rightfully determined that it wouldn't make any sense, seeing as how that dude's been dead for over a decade now. They ended up going with a computer-generated voice, which I actually like. It's off-putting. Good to be back in the old Saw trap again, if we're being honest. Feels like a warm horror hug. Boswick, a crooked cop, can save himself by dropping and letting his lying tongue get ripped out. Otherwise, say hello to Train. You all know what happens next, folks. This is shot like a saw trap, it bleeds like a saw trap, and eventually it kills like a saw trap. Boswick does drop from the ladder, but too late to save himself, so I'd say he got the worst of both worlds, if you stop to think about it. If this trap seems simpler than some of those from the other Saw films, that's intentional. After all, John Kramer was an engineer and could design elaborate torture devices. The new Jigsaw copycat killer doesn't have that expertise. The traps had to make sense, and as always, he built it a way to work in real life.
Then they go to engineers, literal engineers, to figure out, would this really work?
They couldn't shoot in a real subway tunnel, so they faked it with forced perspective. Those are matte paintings back then, with minor visual effects added to help sell the trick. It's also the same background for both directions of the scene. When they needed to get the opposing angle, they just turned actor Dan Petronievich around. He had to bite down on a fake tongue to hold it in place, and since that made his mouth look big, more visual effects were used to make it look normal size. Finally, visual effects were used for the subway train and to make the moment of impact happen. The digital effects team was led by John Campton, who's worked on the franchise since Part 3. The practical effects, like Boswick's prosthetic head, were made by Francois Dagenet, who's been with the series since Saw 2. Dagenet has also worked on Hannibal, made the Tooth Child from Channel Zero, and recently did effects on the new Chucky.
Hey!
Chris Rock plays Detective Zeke Bates, who likes to go undercover so he can practice his
I'm actually
stand.
watching the Chucky TV
Is
series
nice
right
in
now.
Forrest Gump.
I'm on like
His
what?
best
Episode
friend
4 now?
was a nigga and a white boy with no legs.
As mentioned, Rock wrote all of his own comedic lines, and in his opening scene, he was going for a Reservoir Dogs like a virgin kind of conversation. yelled at by Captain Garza. She's played by Marisol Nichols, now famous for Riverdale, but who had a small role in Scream 2 when she first got started. That's fun. Even though his dad used to be chief of police, Zeke's an outcast among the officers for breaking the blue wall of silence.
12 years ago, I turned in a dirty cop.
Since then, everyone hates him for being a so-called rat. He hates them right back. You can tell by the whip-smart dialogue.
Fuck you.
No, fuck you.
Garza assigns Zeke a partner, rookie detective William Shank, played by Max Minghella. The pairing is quite an honor for the young lad.
Your dad's the reason for all of this. He's why I want to do this in the first place.
Shank is subjected to more Chris Rock stand-up as they head to the subway crime scene in a great long one take that even goes down a bunch of stairs. Love the shot, don't love all of Rock's jokes.
Women cheat in the daytime. You can ride a lot of dick before dusk.
They find the splatter and tongueless remains, but don't learn that they belong to a fellow officer until Zeke gets a Robinate blue box with a beat-up USB drive inside. Yeah, just plug that thing into a computer on the police station's network. That's great cybersecurity. A voice tells Zeke that it's going to help him clean up the police force. The cops recognize the spiral in the video as jigsaws, and since John Kramer's dead, this could be a copycat killer. They find the spiral painted on the courthouse wall, along with another box from Tiffany's wedged in the window. This one's got a tongue in it, like this were Blair Witch or some shit, as well as Detective Boswick's police badge. Zeke gets enraged because he was Boswick's friend, apparently not knowing that Bos was a corrupt cop who lied on the stand. When Zeke gets home, he pulls a gun on his dad.
Yeah, you're fucking man. I could have killed you.
What are you talking about? I got the gun.
I could have killed you.
Retired police chief Marcus Banks is played by Samuel L. Jackson, of course, who agreed to be in this movie because Chris Rock was a part of it. That means we get to hear him say lines like this.
Jigsaw copycat.
Yeah, Jigsaw! Glad Jackson's here for one of the funnier scenes of the film, as Zeke jokes about how distant his father is.
I saw you out front the other day. You nodded at me like we're the only two black guys in the mall.
Marcus leaves Zeke alone in his very Saw-style industrial apartment, and he flashes back to the time he turned in his corrupt partner. Zeke had found a man dead, shot by his partner Dunleavy, who lied and said it was done in self-defense. The detectives stew over the case in a scene that gives us our only helping of Tobin Bell in this installment. Hope you like these stills, they're all we're getting. While Zeke stays late looking at these red thread homeland boards, a cop named Fitch looks at Citykins police state cameras. He recognizes the Uncle Sam who led Boz to the trap. It's a local drug addict named Benny Wright. Fitch goes to an abandoned building where Benny usually hangs, giving us more industrial Saw settings bathed in classic blue Saw light. Though Spiral occasionally emulates its predecessors with scenes that are blue or green, Bausman intentionally tried to differentiate its look to somewhat separate it from the series. That's why so many of the scenes are in crowds or take place during the day. It's in contrast to old Saw movies that feel much more claustrophobic. He also replaced shaky handheld shots and quick cuts with longer takes and fluid movements on steady cams and cranes. For a color palette, Bausman went with something warmer than usual to match the overbearing summer heat of Spiral's setting. Helping him with the look was cinematographer Jordan Oram, who had previously done short films and music videos for Drake. For his first feature film, Oram used sepia filters, glimmer glass, and Vaseline on the lenses.
Experimenting filters. I've also put Vaseline on the lens a couple times just to give a bit more texture to the film.
Finch goes to wake Benny up, but instead it's all clear. And he gets bagged around the face and wakes up to find himself in a very wet and stretchy Saw trap. This one's got his fingers all tied up to some gears, and the pig on the TV screen tells him,
I want to play a game.
and then the screen goes black because this movie's editing is fucking weird. We don't see Fitch's death until later, after the fact, but I'll just show you what happens now. Makes more sense that way. Fitch was captured by the Jigsaw copycat killer because he once shot a man in cold blood for flipping him the bird. Now he's wearing finger tracks.
Your finger pulled the trigger, and that cannot happen again.
If he bites down on the bars by his mouth, a machine will rip his fingers off and he'll be free to go. If not, zappy zappy. He bites down for a little bit, pulling him forward into the gears, and his fingers do indeed begin to tear off. But he stops to cry out, and that hesitation costs him dearly. Despite committing to the punishment thereafter, he's killed when the tub reaches the electrical coils around him. I guess when it came to escaping, he just couldn't figure it out. They had a hard time editing the finger trap, partly because there wasn't enough coverage of the water rising, partly because the MPAA made them cut out more than half the scene. As with all the traps, it was done practically. The digital work was limited to smoke, the eyes turning red, and cleaning up seams between the effects, like where actor Richard Zeppieri had his hands through holes in the table underneath prosthetic hands tied up in the track. They filmed all 10 fingers being torn off, and though the MPAA made them cut it, at least they gave Bausman some souvenirs.
I actually took those fingers home with me on my carry-on bag, and They were pulled out at customs when I was going across the border from Canada back to the United States, and I had to explain to them why I had 10 fake fingers in my bag.
Zeke visits his dad's apartment only to find that nobody's home. Earlier, Marcus was seen going into some building, but Zeke doesn't know about all that. Alone, he has another flashback to 12 years ago, where they hilariously try to de-age the characters with fake facial hair, bangs, and a backwards baseball cap. This feels like a college humor sketch, or, that scene in Saw 3D. We see that Marcus was pissed about Zeke turning in another cop, and that Garza promised Marcus she would help him deal with it. Okay, cool. Exposition acquired. You can leave this set now, Mr. Rock. Zeke gets another blue box, plugs another questionable flash drive into his work computer, and watches another video that features a spiral. It's also got Mr. Snuggles, the new puppet in Spiral, who replaces Billy. But don't worry, Billy. We still love you, little guy. They recognize the video's background and head there, where they open a spiraled up truck to get all clear. Yet again. Still yeah. They also find a box of fingers and Detective Finch's police badge. We get
I'm telling
another
you,
flashback.
James Anthony is
This is Saw, after
funny
all, where we see that
guy.
once upon a time, Zeke was in serious trouble. When he requested backup, Fitch purposefully ignored his call. That got Zeke a bullet in his stomach and Fitch an ass beating by then Captain Marcus Banks. In the present, the police force finds Fitch's body and decides to keep pursuing his lead, namely Benny Wright. They go to where Benny buys his delicious drugs, and Zeke play acts as a potential buyer to trick the dealer. I think Zeke should have been an actor instead of a cop. He seems to really like the undercover stuff. His ruse blows a bunch of paint into the guy's eyes, giving Zeke and Shank a fighting chance when they storm the castle and bust down the dealer's door. Zeke plows the guy through a glass table that leaves his leg impaled. Oh, damn. The drug dealer is played by popular YouTube magician Chris Ramsey. Bowser's a Magic fan and personally invited him to be part of the film. Ramsey has some awesome videos on his channel from his time on set, including stuff about the stunts he did, like getting his face blasted with paint and going backwards through that table. Best of all, they let him keep the prosthetic he wears here, which was made from a mold of his leg.
Still smells like my leg.
Zeke tortures the guy through his injuries, so what? He's not a cop who plays by the rules? The tactic works, and the dealer tells him that Benny Rice hasn't been around lately. Damn, a dead end for your case. Maybe grab a bite to eat and think about it some more.
John Kramer didn't target cops.
Excuse me, sir? Some of John Kramer's biggest fucking targets were cops, dude. This is Detective Carrier Erasure, and I won't stand for it. Zeke visits his ex-partner Pete Dunleavy, who served 9 years behind bars after Zeke refused to cover up for his murder. Another flashback shows why Dunleavy done did it. The guy he killed was witness to another cop's murder and was going to testify against him. Dunleavy backed his police bros, shot the guy, and framed him for murder. He probably should have taken an acting and or logic class, though.
He pulled a gun on me. The witness pulled a gun on me?
Huh, why is that hard to believe, Zeke? Dunleavy's sober now and, kind of apologetic.
Should have never pulled the trigger. Guy had a family.
But the scene doesn't really do anything, so on we go. Another night with Daddy, nowhere to be found. Another morning with another blue box delivery. This one's bigger and has a Mr. Snuggles inside, wrapped in human flesh like it was a goddamn Necronomicon. Zeke recognizes the skin as belonging to his rookie partner Shane, and after a little jumped up freakout, they find another clue to follow. It leads them to a butcher shop where they find a skinless body. A tape player nearby has a message addressed to Shane, and we see some quick bloody flashbacks, but not a full-on trap sequence like we got with the other two kills. Come on, show us the traps! The skinning scene was another instance where the MPAA cracked down hard, making things difficult for Bousman and editor Deb Singh.
They don't give you a lot of guidance on what to do because they don't want to consider themselves a censorship board.
Bousman thinks part of the pushback came because this was a more mainstream Saw film. Chris Rock and Sam Jackson might bring in a broader audience. He says an entire trap had to be removed, one in which they ripped the guy's face off. He wouldn't say which character's death it was, but my guess is Detective Drury, who's shown and mentioned a few times before kind of just disappearing from the movie. Garza gets a text from the missing Marcus telling her to check out something in the evidence locker. Wait, why's that door say Vincent Jules? Did y'all do that for Sammy J? Well, I hope he liked it. The Pulp Fiction door slams shut, and Garza gets gasified, knocking her unconscious so she can get pig. She wakes up with wet paper towel on her face and a tape recorder playing. It admonishes her for covering up corruption in the police force, then reveals one of the nastiest trap conditions I've ever heard.
The only way to stop yourself from being suffocated is to sever your spinal cord.
Damn, man, cutting off a body part is standard Saw trap payment. But for some reason, it feels more extreme to paralyze a person from the neck down. She goes for it anyway, but it doesn't work out. By the time Zeke finds her, she's suffocated and smoking. I bet all that wax would actually be pretty fun to peel. Oh, no, it's taking the skin with it. Never mind. Don't like that. Damn, dude, still another jump cut hissy fit and tries to figure out, oh, here! Now we jump back to finish that scene with Marcus that
Oh my
started
goodness, I
nearly
freaking
40
love
minutes ago.
when
This
he does
movie's
that, you know?
structure is so weird. I'm not sure if they ran into a problem during editing or what, but you know what? At least we get Sam Jackson saying the lines we want to hear.
You wanna play games, motherfucker? Alright, I'll play.
Haha, yeah, you'll play, dude. Around a face snatching and air shooting. Now we're back to Zeke, who wakes up in such an OG Saw position that it calls for a rendition of Hello Zap, the only music cue to return from the previous Saw film. Hello Zep was composed by Charlie Clouser, former keyboardist for Nine Inch Nails. It's
Oh,
one of my
Charlie
favorite
Clouser,
chords.
okay. No! No!
U.S. Cellular
Damn
prepaid
you,
cards.
you ad! Why? Oh, yay! I don't care. Irrelevant.
Clouser has worked on every Saw film, and much like Bausman's direction, his work in Spiral perfectly balances new and
Closer.
familiar. Zeke
So
gets it
that's
so
the
free and
one.
easy
So
that
that's
he
the guy
discovers
who
his
did
ex-partner Pete Dunleavy chained up. But
the
that's Pete,
soundtrack for Dead
guess
Silence.
so. I didn't recognize him because every time this character shows up, he looks like he's played by a different actor. Another tape recording tells Zeke that he can save Dunleavy or let him face punishment for his murder. And punishment in this case means a hurricane of glass going into the guy. Is this a real thing? A glass bottle pitching machine? Seems like a messy way to recycle, but I guess if it's saving the planet. On set, they used real glass and plexiglass for the shots of the bottle. When actors were involved, they used rubber glass instead.
But that hurts, by the way, because it's being shot out. It's being shot out by air cannons.
So Zeke tries his hardest to free Dunleavy. It's too late. The guy has been flayed to death by flying glass. Maybe don't keep touching him, Zeke. Gonna get glass in your hand. Probably doesn't matter. He's got glass everywhere. Zeke continues onward until this movie's pretty obvious plot twist is revealed. It's been Detective William Shank the whole time. Yeah, clearly it's the guy whose death we never saw explicitly. Turns out that skinned body belonged to missing drug addict Benny Rice, so I'll go ahead and put him on the kill count now. I didn't put up a kill graphic when they found the body to keep the mystery going. You know, just for fun. We see that Shank, real name Emerson, was a young boy when he saw his father murdered by Dunleavy. Zeke protected the young Shank, who then devoted his life to joining the force and becoming Zeke's partner. He still wants to be partners, in fact. After all, Zeke stood up to corrupt cops, and Shank has shown that he too is against corrupt cops. Very violently so.
You want me to help you kill cops?
No, fuck no. Just a balance.
Zeke says he'll go along with it, but before Shane can trust his sincerity, he'll have to pass one final test. That test involves his dad, Marcus Banks, suspended above the ground with his blood leaking into jars. Shank has called the police and told them there's a crazy guy with a gun. They're pulling up outside, putting a time limit on Zeke's decision. The gun he holds has a single bullet. If he shoots a target, his dad will be set free, but Shank will be able to escape. If he shoots Shank, his dad will die. So, probably shoot the target, right? Shank talks about how Zeke's dad was king of corruption when he was police chief. So what? Is he trying to convince Zeke to shoot him and let his dad die? I don't really understand the drama here.
That's what cops do. Shoot first, ask questions later.
No, yeah, I get the moralizing. I just don't get the motivation of this ultimatum. Zeke shoots the target because, Dodoy, and as promised, Marcus drops to the ground. After checking on him, Zeke pounces on Shank, so he's busy as the SWAT team buzzsaws through the door. It cuts a tripwire that Shank had set up, and Marcus is pulled off the ground looking like a puppet. All while Hello Zep kicks into full swing, and we get some elucidating flashbacks.
And Dad's the reason for all of this. That's why I want to do this in the first place.
The SWAT team gets inside, and a mechanism pushes a gun into Marcus's hand. The symbolism is apparent as the officers open fire, tearing Marcus Banks to pieces, while his son Zeke screams in agony. The movie ends with Shank shushing Zeke as he gets away, and the credits play over 21 Savage's kick-ass Spiral song. How many lives spiraled into death and onto the kill count? Let's find out in... Oh no.
This guy is funny.
8 people died in Spiral, with the victims consisting of 7 men and only a single woman. Really scaled back the killing here. The last 3 Saw movies had double-digit kills. With a runtime of 93 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 11.63 minutes. I'll give the Golden Chainsaw for coolest kill to Captain Garza. Suffocating in hot wax is horrific and new to me. Closest thing I can think of is that creepy kill in Tourist Trap. Dollar City for lamest kill will go to the driver that Detective Fitch murdered, shot by a bastard off screen. And lest we forget, Saw movies have their own awards. I'll give the Platinum Punji Sticks for coolest trap to the Finger Puller 9000. It's elaborate, yet gives the victim a simple to the glass throwing thing. Felt like not enough time to get done leaving down, and it's just chucking glass shards at him. And that's it. Spiral from the Book of Saw was finished days
There's
before
tacos
the
if you're hungry.
COVID-19
Okay. Can I get it? Alright, great.
lockdowns began. Rather than release it on streaming services, they waited a full year to release it in theaters, but it still wound up with the lowest box office of the franchise. Until next time, I'm James A. Janice. This has been The Kill Count.
Next kill.
Oh, what's it?
Old Fred Krueger was looking around Elm Street like it was a kid's playground when suddenly Jason burst on the scene.
What's that one, yo? These kids, I can see your hand. I'm going to be the light on this one. And, yeah, that was really good. I still like the song, the spiral. They can see your hand! I still like the spiral movie. It was really good. So yeah, this is a really good, like, I love all the Saw movies. And plus, I can't wait for that's the reason why I just wanted to do this thing for Dead Meat. Anyway, this has been your Animal Bear Gamer just reacting to Dead Meat Kill Count of Jigsaw and Spiral. If you liked my reaction to the Dead Meat Kill Count of Jigsaw and Spiral, why not hit that like, subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that notification button anytime I upload a new reaction video, and comment down below if you're comment down below if you really are excited for Saw 10. Anyway, bye my bear fans. Oh, please, kids. No, come on.